All right, welcome everyone. The regular meeting of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Housing Finance Board will now begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Tolbert and I'm the chair of the Housing Finance Board. Before we begin, I'd like to note that the meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. The city of Minneapolis will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. Board meetings are public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. I will now call this meeting to order and ask staff to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
All right, and I will call the roll. First, Chair Tolbert.
Here.
Councilmember Brenmon.
Here.
Councilmember Naker.
Here.
Councilmember Goodman.
Present.
Councilmember Gordon.
Here.
And Councilmember Ellison.
Present.
I'll just note that we have all 6 of our members here today.
Should we do the adoption of the agenda?
Yes, let's do that that next.
Okay. A motion to adopt the agenda from, are we commissioners in this? Or Councilmember Brenmon? Council President Brenmon, excuse me.
I will move that if it hasn't, or I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. If we could call the roll on item number 2.
Right, Chair Tolbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Brenmon.
Aye.
Councilmember Naker.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
All right, we have 6 ayes.
Item number 3, acceptance of the minutes, July 14th, 2020 meeting. A motion from Councilmember Goodman.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Tolbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Brenmon.
Aye.
Councilmember Naker.
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes.
Item number 4, receiving and filing the 2020 financial audit. Before we begin, Ms. Gilder, it looks like, oh no. Before we do this, could I ask staff to give us a little bit of an overview of how the finances of this body work and kind of the checks and balances and how it's bifurcated between the 2 cities and responsibility and accountability? I think one of the things that, you know, and as a new member of this, I assumed I was just out of the know, but having been the chair and not really being privy to all the conversations on this, I think it's important that we take a step back and actually understand the role of this body as well as the checks and balances of our financials, since we both have debts and obligations that are through this body. I know the audit lays out nicely the legal reasons of why we exist, but could staff maybe talk a little bit about that and how we work together and staff this?
Chair Tolbert, commissioners, I could start if that's okay, Angie and Amy, and then please fill in what I miss. So the joint board holds cost of issuance accounts for each city, which are the proceeds that have been generated through the mortgage bonding activity over the years. The 2 accounts are held by Wells Fargo and maintained separately. So there is an accounting of sort of the resources attributable to each city. And we receive, I think, monthly statements from Wells Fargo and commission an annual audit to account for those funds each year. So that's high level the process. And I welcome any other input from Angie or Amy or specific questions.
Yeah, I would just add that the joint board's bylaws do require us to abide by generally accepted accounting principles. And that we do conduct an audit, which we're here to take a look at for our 2020 financials. We also have Mark Berquist on the line who conducted the audit on behalf of Olson Thielen for the joint board and can maybe answer more specific questions related to the accounts within the audit.
Mr. Berquist, if you want to.
Yes, I think this is the first time I've actually attended the meeting in the past. I've worked with Amy and also Michelle, Michelle from St. Paul. Michelle's no longer with St. Paul. And so I think Amy, you took on a little more as far as involvement with the audit, but the audit is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's really the Wells Fargo is a trustee, so all the information we get, it really comes from reports and transactions that we get from Wells Fargo. And so it's really recapping that. And the audit's been fairly easy audit the last few years. Just the only activity is really bond debts going down and investments are going down. There's been really no new debt issuance in quite a few years. So if that ever happens, then we probably would have a lot more to do on the audit. But it's been pretty straightforward. Investments going down and bond debt going down. So.
And I'll maybe just jump in and add if there are any activities related to either city's cost of issuance account. Like board members will recall that last year, Minneapolis authorized a transfer out of the Minneapolis sub-account to the city of Minneapolis. And any activities like that require specific approval from each city.
So, Mr. Berkeley, is that normal to have sub-accounts between two entities within a general account?
Yeah, yes, it is. It is common. I guess I see this more with governmental entities. And even though they're separate, as far as reporting them on the audit, we consider them one entity. So it's from an audit perspective, it's all combined. But Wells Fargo has them all separate, separate individual accounts. And there was a $4 million transfer last year from the Minneapolis account to the city of Minneapolis.
Okay.
I think I would maybe just add that, and this may be obvious, but in case not, that the separate cost of issuance accounts are related to those bond debt obligations that were issued for real estate mortgage lending in each specific jurisdiction. So we've just wanted to be able to track those bond issuances by the sub jurisdictions, and then the revenues the same.
And Mr. Berger, is everything, obviously we have the audit in front of us and we've at least looked through it. Is there anything that stands out, or are we in good financial standings in your opinion?
No problems we came across on the audit. As far as, during the course of an audit, if we come across what's considered to be a material weakness in controls, we're required to report that. And actually, really nothing in controls. The only really finding, I guess, we had, which we've had every year, is if the entity, if management doesn't have the ability to prepare these financial statements with all their disclosures, we have to consider that a weakness, and fairly typical finding for most small nonprofits and governmental entities. So if you don't have the expertise to prepare the financial statements with all their note disclosures, we have to consider that a material weakness, and we have reported that as a material weakness.
Does anyone else have other questions? If not, someone want to make a motion to accept this financial audit?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please. I think you're on
Amy,
mute.
are you going to call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Chair Tolbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Brennan,
Aye.
Councilmember Naker,
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman,
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
All right, we have 6 ayes.
All right. Number 5, approving proposed changes for the year 2022-2023 low-income housing tax credit procedural manual and the year 2022-2023 qualified allocation plan. Before I open this hearing to public comments, let me summarize the process for conducting the public hearing in this online format. I will recognize speakers by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Once you hear your last 4 digits, please press *6 to unmute your phone. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. We ask that after your number is called, you state your name and address for the record and proceed to your comments. Do we have anybody on the phone, on the line?
We do not at this time.
And Amy, I'll probably just lead the meeting right now since I think you're done with my questions, so.
We are. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you,
all
Mark.
right.
Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Okay, bye.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, Chair Tolbert, I do not see any callers on the line at this time.
All right. Great.
We will still need to open the public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody that's called in to testify on this matter? All right. Does anybody have any questions or would anybody like a staff report? If not, maybe we could make a motion to close the public hearing and approve from Councilmember Naker. Want to make that motion?
Yes.
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Chair Tolbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Brennan,
Aye.
Councilmember Naker,
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman,
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes.
Motion passes. Item number 6, a discussion to consider Kutak Rock Legal Services Contract Extension.
Charles Tolbert, I'll provide a very short staff report on this item. One of the things that the joint board just adopted in the adoption of the qualified allocation plan is a new two-year qualified allocation plan, which is new for this body. Back in 2017, the joint board had an RFP for legal service representation and selected Kutak Rock. Their contract now runs through 2022, which is in the middle of this new two-year QAP cycle that we just adopted. So in hopes of maybe not having to have a meeting next year unless something comes up, staff is recommending that we extend the Kutak contract to July of 2023, which would allow us to then meet and reconsider our legal services representation on kind of a normal QAP aligned schedule. We've been very satisfied with services provided to date. They have a national tax credit portfolio presence, and we think that this will be the easiest way to continue to administratively handle this program over the next 2 years.
Any comments or questions? All right. I will say the one thing I don't know if we're accepting to skip the meeting next year. I don't know if I would suggest doing that. One thing I think would be helpful maybe next year, even if we don't have the QAP and maybe everyone would agree or doesn't have to show up to the next meeting, but I think an overview of the governance of this body and how it's laid out is important. I don't know how everybody feels, but I'm kind of confused and lost on how we're structured and why we're structured this way and how everything is set up, and that makes me nervous. Especially since people elected me as the chair, because I feel some obligation to be able to explain that to people. And if I couldn't give that quick explanation to someone who asked, I feel that it would make sense to at least review that. I think this is a board that has kind of just existed for whatever reasons, and it's been passed down from staff member to staff member, which is fine, but some formal recognition of our processes and procedures, like, for example, even who writes the agenda and who decides that it's the agenda and sends it out. I didn't see it before Friday. I don't know if other people did, or anybody asked for it, but I think just basic things like that for a board would be helpful. Council President Brenmo?
I would support that. And I think just adding to what you said, as we see, new commissioners or council members join this board and new staff members staffing this board, especially when I think I referred to the silver tsunami earlier today, is we're going to see more and more of this. And I think it's just a really good practice to sort of level set, like, what are we doing here and why? Since we only meet once a year, because there's always going to be new people at these meetings, and maybe historically the same folks were at the table for 10 years running, but there has been quite a bit of turnover. So I think it's a good practice here, and probably beyond this table, just to be clear, what's in St. Paul, we have a joint property tax advisory committee that's ordered by the legislature, and just I don't think people would automatically know that unless we explain what it was, why we were there, and how the body was governed. So I would support what Councilmember Tolbert is proposing. I think it's just like another level of plain language and making sure that our committees and commissions are accessible to everybody, old and new.
Any other comments or questions? I don't think that. All right. Did we vote on the CUTEC contract extension? Okay.
Oh, no, not yet. Sorry. You voted on the QAP, but not the CUTEC contract, right?
All right. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the CUTEC contract for 2 years? All right. How about Councilmember Goodman?
Happy to move to approve
All
the
right.
contract, and just note that if you have a meeting to discuss why the board's happening, I won't need to attend. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chair Tolbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Brenmoen,
Aye.
Councilmember Naker,
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman,
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon,
Aye.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes.
All right. That brings us to the end of the meeting. I believe we can be adjourned unless someone has something else. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
to the council members for your time, so we can move forward on these important programs. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to stop recording.